Bad word, but you have to open up. Well, it is, because you got to watch.
I love it.
The stuff has to go someplace.
The sewer.
The sewer. And when it doesn't, when it stays inside of you, it really makes you sick. And people don't know this, but Elvis died. One of the things he died was an impacted bowel, like 40 pounds of waste there.
Really?
You have to go. So what we did is I developed a protocol when I got back and I started treating these chemically injured people. They did 2 weeks at home and 3 weeks in the clinic. And we did treatment 6 days a week. And the way we did that is I would send them a package of the vitamins, the supplements, particularly the high potency minerals. And a couple of things that I used back then, I called them Roto-Rooter for the gut. Because it would rotor-root right through it. And then we sent them something called Factor 1, which was basically a combination of what's now blue-green algae. And back in those days, I had to find all that stuff. Now it comes in a pack.
Let me ask you a question, Dr.
Yes.
Lusenstein. You mentioned Elvis, and you've talked about the AO scan. If you were able to give Elvis an AO scan back in those days, how would that have helped Elvis?
Well, for one thing, we would have seen all of the emotional problems that he had, and to treat that, because that's the one thing that doctors, especially Western doctors, don't realize. Why? I could be mean, but you can figure out. They don't have the pill. But your body has a certain amount of energy that it requires. And it requires that amount of energy, even if you're laying in a coma. Now, when you're exercising, there's more, and the body knows where to shunts the blood and where to put it and what's needed. Here's the thing. The one thing that we know is most of the problems that people have are from the stress that is in their life. So if we can help people do that, and we've got several ways of doing that. Usually with, at the time I was using not biofeedback, subliminal hypnosis.
Wow.
And what that did is that taught the person to belly breathe. You can create or dissipate an enormous amount of stress just by breathing correctly. I know everybody breathes correctly. No, they don't. And when you belly breathe, you send a message to your vagus nerve that says relax, and then you're not producing cortisol. So when you go to the doctor and the doctor says your cortisol level is high, and your sed rate is high, and there's a couple of other things that are high, that's because your body's under stress. The problem is, what we found out is that psychiatric medication don't really fix that. You've got to do it yourself, and we help people with that.
You have written and talked extensively about energy and frequency.
Yeah.
Why is that important?
What I learned treating people and watching the changes, and the biggest change was when I treated a bunch of breast implant ladies, and we treated men, and we had two groups. We had one from New York and one from the West Coast, LA. They were there in Los Angeles. Everything in Los Angeles is in Los Angeles. And they would come in on a Sunday and leave on a Saturday. And since I had this group, I said to my vocational evaluator, now remember, we were treating head injury, and that's what we did from 1976 on. We gave them a mini quiz. We looked at their patterns of speech, processing information, their ability to manipulate things with their hands, how fast, the speediness of response, whether they could follow a maze. That's always a good test. And we did the follow-up when they left. Now, I want to tell you, I didn't think it would make it. I didn't think that what we did in treatment would change their cognitive function. Boy, was I wrong. And when Camille told me that, I said, you got to be kidding. What that told me was there was a connection between the gut and the brain. So we started putting the other people that we had, the head injured and the chronic pain people, on that same program. And I discovered, and I didn't know why they got, I just knew that's why I came up with the connection between the gut and the brain. I had this idea about the body as a battery because I would view people and their battery was just worn down. There was no energy. And by using the electricity and the magnetic, I was putting energy back into their body. And by fixing their gut, I was allowing their body to do what it does best, which is fix it. And it does their immune system. I found out in 2018 about something, the microbiome. And the thing, and now it's ubiquitous. Everything has its own biome. The heart has its own biome. Everybody, but it all comes from the stomach tells the brain, the gut tells the brain what to do and where to send. So if your gut isn't healthy, the messages that it's sending not only to your brain but to your heart and to your liver, the rest of the organs, because it's all connected. Those messages are going, and so you don't get well. And if you stay in that inflammatory state long enough, you end up with some kind of significant disease, such as an autoimmune disorder, or because what happens ultimately is the body says, I got to get rid of it. And it just throws more of everything that it has, and ultimately it destroys you.
So you're basically saying the body is a battery, and just like in your car battery, if you want that car to run, you got to charge that battery, and you've got to do other things with that car to keep the car running sufficiently. And the same thing's true with your body. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. It's what I wrote an article about the body as a battery. I've written several others on my website about the body as here's what happens when we hit about. I kept my life in pretty. This didn't happen to me till I was, but about 50, you start losing. It actually starts a little bit earlier. It starts in your 30s, and you end up with a balance, but you don't know it because you've got so much accessory energy supply that fixes the problem. You don't know it. It's there. About 6, there are some changes that take place in your body where you aren't processing food the way you used. Those are the things by the time it gets to 70, you can fall off. I didn't fall off the cliff until I was 76 or 70. And there was a time.
You don't look even close to that age. I'm 83 years old. And I know what you're talking about. When you get older, that body starts to discharge. You need to keep it up, literally. I am absolutely amazed at what you can do. I'm sorry to cut you off.
But it's not, because what we say is we can take people 40 to 70 who want to live to be 80 but may not make it. And people who are 80 my age, we can help them also. You can always get back on. We can give you back your. We can't give you back your. But we can get you so you can be able to get down on the floor and play with your grandchildren and not have to plot a course about how. And there was a time not too long. My ex-partner can tell you. I have a pretty. I couldn't remember if I saw a phone number. I had to go to the phone and point by point.
Wow.
I don't have that.
We're getting. I could talk to you all day long. We're getting close to running out of time. Let me ask you, what do you think the future of medicine is as you?
The future is going to be energy, and it's going to have to do with putting minerals back into your body. Taking cell signaling keeps you from because it's cleaning your. But the key is, and why people is, you've got things going on in your 57 trillion cells, and something's happening in them all, and they're all because of the metabolic they're producing. And why people get sick is their cells don't. You have to have the right combination of minerals, water, the right that make your cells. And then when they empty, you've got these little street cleaners that comes out at night when you sleep, and they have to have some place to empty, which empties in.
Is that the street cleaners cleaning it up?
That's the street cleaners cleaning it up. That's why I explain it. It's like little street cleaners, and they go into your cells and they clean the cells out. And at that time, they can reinvigorate, or they can kill the cell and help you produce new ones. That's the key. When I did my neuropsych training back in this, we learned God gives you a few billion cells in your brain, and that's it. And I found out through my training, through my advanced training in neurology and neuropsychiatry and neuro, that the brain, and we can fix that with the right kinds of nutrition, the right kinds of exercise, and the right kinds of the messages that you, because those, you ask about frequency, every time you, that it has a certain thing. If you sit there and think, I'm a terrible person, I don't belong here, that's low. If you think of yourself as a person on good,